Norway economic system.
The colors in the Norwegian flag represent Norway's past political unions. Denmark is represented by red and white, and Sweden is represented by blue. The image to the right is a map of Europe, and the colored section is Norway. Norway's location has a significant impact on its economy because it has caused the export sector of the economy to increase dramatically. Its location also helps the success of the seafood sector.
The main stock market in Norway is the Oslo Stock Exchange, which is a very strong stock market. The Oslo Stock Exchange is constantly bringing domestic and international investors together. There are tons of international companies involved that make the Oslo Stock Exchange that much better, including companies within petroleum and shipping. The OBX is a major stock market index that tracks the performance of the 25 most rated securities on the Oslo Stock Exchange in 6 months.
Norway has a very prosperous mixed economy. They have a vibrant private sector and large state sector. The people are willing to pay high taxes because they end up getting money back from the government, and they have a strong economy. They also have an extensive social safety net and a strongly integrated welfare system. Norway has a lot of natural resources such as petroleum, hydropower, fish, forests, and minerals which keep their economy thriving.
GDP, the gross domestic product, is the primary indicators used to measure the growth of an economy. A high percentage means that the economy grew a lot in the past year. In 2011, the GDP in Norway was a 1.5% increase, which is good. The GDP is calculated by sectors, and each sector is worth a certain amount towards the GDP. The main sectors are agriculture, which is 2.8%, industry, 39.5%, and services, 57.8%. The public sector of Norway is the largest in the world when it comes to GDP growth. The GDP is mainly based off a combination of free market activity and government intervention. The government controls key areas such as the petroleum sector, which Norway is highly dependent on. In fact, petroleum is nearly half of Norway's export and 30% of its state revenue.
The conventional long form of Norway is the Kingdom of Norway. The government type is a constitutional monarchy, and the capital is Oslo. The chief of state is King Harald V. The head of government is Prime Minister Jens Stoltenberg, and the cabinet is made up of a state council which is appointed by the monarch and the approval of parliament. The monarchy is hereditary.
The people of Norway don't use the euro as their system of money. They use the kroner, which is equivalent to 5.6046 US dollars. The system of government they use is socialist, which means that the government has some involvement in the economy. There are also high taxes in Norway because the tax money is used to pay for environmental issues and things necessary to keep Norway a successful country and keep their economic system thriving. The Norwegian economic system has many policies that keep the government from failing. For example, they have the monetary policy, which is used if inflation occurs or if something goes wrong in the economy. Also, the labor market, which is the supply of available workers in relation to the demands for them, is good. There's low unemployment and high participation when it comes to jobs. Norwegians also have public expenditure, which was made because of Norwegians' need for redistribution in a fair society.
Norway is the second largest exporter of gas and the seventh largest exporter of oil in the world. A third of Norway's income comes from oil and gas exports. The seafood sector is also extremely prosperous due to Norway's location and the amount of resources. The industry and labor force is a large aspect of Norway's economic growth. It is 39.5% of the sectors. Norway is highly dependent on the petroleum sector because it accounts for the largest portion of export revenue. It is a government-owned sector, and it results in about 20% of government revenue. About 140,000 people are employed by petroleum-related businesses.
The Parliament building in Oslo is where the 169 members of Parliament gather and make decisions while being led by a president and 5 vice presidents. The people of the Parliament are presented with a bill, and if majority don't approve, then the bill doesn't pass. There are all different kinds of committees within Parliament, such as business and industry, education, research and church affairs, energy and environment, family and cultural affairs, finance and economic affairs, foreign affairs and defense, health and care services, justice, labor and social affairs, local government and public administration, scrutiny and constitutional affairs, and transport and communications.
This is a picture of the City Hall in Oslo. The Nobel Peace Prize ceremony takes place in the City Hall every year on December 10th. King Harald is the son of King Olav V and Crown Princess Martha. He ascended the throne when his father died on January 17, 1991. His motto is, "All for Norway," just like it was for both his father and his grandfather. The birth of a prince is always a very historical event in Norway. King Harald was born on February 21, 1937. The prince's birth guaranteed a king for at least 2 generations. This made everyone in Norway feel secure. Norway also gained a queen for the first time in 53 years when Harald took the throne. Her name is Sonja Haraldsen. The Prime Minister of Norway is Jens Stoltenberg. The Labour Party, the Socialist Left Party, and Stoltenberg control the economy. This video talks about the state of the country's economy and their oil production.
Prime Minister, thank you so much for speaking to Bloomberg. Now, your economy has been growing, but exports have been falling somewhat over the past 2 quarters. Why is that, and how will that affect your recovery?
It will not really affect our recovery because our recovery is so strong, and it's also partly now stimulated by domestic demand, increased private consumption. And we have now an unemployment rate of around 3.5% and economic growth about 3%. So that's quite good, and it's also a strong growth in the non-oil part of the Norwegian economy.
How concerned are you, though, that the strength of the kroner will continue and that will hurt your exports in the future even more?
We have adopted an inflation target. We have an independent national bank, and it's their responsibility to conduct and to implement our monetary policies, where they have to look at the inflation but also set the interest rate so we have a stable development in the Norwegian economy. And as part of their decision making when it comes to setting the interest rate, they will also consider the currency rate and the Norwegian kroner.
Jens Stoltenberg has been Prime Minister since October 17, 2005. He has seen Norway's economy struggle and strive. He mentioned the struggles with inflation he has faced, which has been a common problem with many different economic systems around the world. He doesn't believe that the fall of the export sector will have too much of a negative impact on Norway's economic recovery because it is so strong. Their unemployment rate is at an incredibly low rate of 3.5%. His plan is to keep track of inflation and set interest rates.
Prime Minister, I also want to ask you a little bit about the Norwegian Sovereign Wealth Fund, the oil fund. The Finance Ministry, of course, has set these guidelines saying that they want to decrease the proportion of investments in Europe. Why is that?
We are trying to follow, in a way, the world market, and therefore, when we see that the emerging economies are growing so fast, it just reflects the overall approach that we try to invest as much as possible in accordance with the strength and the weights of the different parts of the world economy.
But is this related to the debt crisis in Europe?
No, it's not related to that.
And in terms of what the fund would be buying, is there any direct order to stay away from European bonds? Because at the moment we're not sure what's happening with them.
No, and it's very much it's not the government and it's not the National Assembly that decides on specific investments. We just adopt the guidelines. They are completely transparent, open, available for everyone, and then it is up to the National Bank, which implements the guidelines to make the different investments decisions.
The Norwegian economy is an economy that will thrive for many years to come. The high standard of living, successful stock market, and steady GDP growth all contribute to the success of the Norwegian economy. Their plans for when things go wrong are strong enough that if anything bad ever does happen to their economy, they already have a way to fix it. Norway will be a powerful country in the future.